Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the Islamic SHAHADA channel. Canada, the land often celebrated for its multicultural harmony, is witnessing a profound shift in its religious landscape. Islam, once seen as a small minority faith, is now one of the fastest-growing religions in the country. But behind the numbers lies a story of resilience, conversions, and also growing challenges. Today we explore the surprising growth of Islam in Canada and the complex realities facing Muslims in 2025. Canada's Muslim population has experienced remarkable growth over the past 2 decades. According to the 2021 Canadian census, there are now 1.77 million Muslims living in Canada, making up about 4.9% of the total population. This is a dramatic increase compared to just 2 decades earlier. In 2001, Muslims represented less than half of that number. In other words, the Muslim population in Canada has more than doubled within 1 generation, showing how Islam is becoming one of the fastest-growing religions in the country. Most Canadian Muslims are concentrated in the country's major urban centers. Toronto, with its vast immigrant communities, is home to the largest Muslim population, followed closely by Montreal, Vancouver, and the rapidly growing cities of Alberta, such as Calgary and Edmonton. These urban hubs provide vibrant spaces for Muslim communities to establish mosques, Islamic schools, cultural centers, and local organizations, creating strong networks of support and identity. 2 major factors drive this growth. The first is immigration from Muslim-majority countries, particularly from regions such as South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Canada's immigration policies, known for being among the most welcoming in the world, have attracted families seeking safety, education, and economic opportunity. Many of them have chosen to build their lives in Canada while keeping their Islamic faith as a central part of their identity. The second factor is conversion among native-born Canadians. Over the past decade, a rising number of Canadians, many of them women, have embraced Islam after personal journeys of reflection, study, and interfaith exposure. These stories of conversion highlight that Islam's growth in Canada is not only tied to immigration, but also to its increasing appeal among local populations searching for faith, meaning, and community. Conversion to Islam in Canada has become one of the most striking religious trends of recent years, and in 2025, new research continues to shed light on this remarkable phenomenon. A groundbreaking study titled "Persuaded by the Qur'an" 2025, conducted in Alberta and Ontario, involved 58 Canadian participants who recently embraced Islam. The findings reveal that many of these new Muslims were drawn to Islam by the spiritual power of the Qur'an, its profound emphasis on monotheism, and the clarity of its teachings about the purpose of life. For some, the Qur'an's eloquence and spiritual depth provided the answers they had long been searching for, answers that other worldviews had failed to offer. Another recent study from the University of Ottawa, 2025, focused on 15 Canadian converts to Islam and highlighted several recurring themes behind their decision to embrace the faith. Many participants described their journey as a search for identity and meaning, often beginning with dissatisfaction with materialism or secular culture. Some spoke of deeply personal spiritual experiences, while others emphasized the sense of community and belonging they discovered within Canadian Muslim circles. For these individuals, Islam was not simply a set of rituals, but a way of life that gave them direction, resilience, and peace of mind. However, these inspiring stories also come with challenges. New converts often face stereotypes and misconceptions about Islam from the wider society, which can lead to feelings of isolation. Some encounter resistance or even rejection from their families and friends who struggle to understand their decision. Adapting to a new religious identity can also be difficult, as converts navigate everything from learning daily prayers in Arabic to balancing cultural traditions with their new faith. Despite these obstacles, many converts describe their embrace of Islam as a deeply transformative journey, one that gives them strength, clarity, and hope. The growing number of Canadians converting to Islam in 2025 highlights an important reality. Islam's presence in Canada is not only sustained by immigration, but also by the genuine spiritual appeal of the religion itself. For many Canadians, Islam provides answers to timeless human questions about God, morality, and purpose. In a society often characterized by individualism and rapid change, the sense of belonging, discipline, and spiritual fulfillment that Islam offers continues to attract people from diverse walks of life. In recent years, Canada has been praised as a model of multiculturalism. But for many Muslims living here, 2025 has underscored the painful reality that Islamophobia remains a major challenge. According to the York University Islamophobia Research Hub, the situation dramatically worsened after the outbreak of the Gaza conflict on October 7, 2023. What had once been considered sporadic incidents of bias have now turned into a broader pattern of hostility and discrimination, affecting Muslims in nearly every province. The numbers reveal the scale of the crisis. In 2023 alone, hate crimes targeting Muslims rose by 94% nationwide, a staggering increase that has not slowed in the years since. The city of Toronto witnessed one of the sharpest spikes, with reports of Islamophobic incidents and anti-Palestinian racism jumping by more than 1,600% compared to the previous year. This includes harassment in schools, targeted vandalism of mosques, and threats directed at individuals simply for wearing visible markers of their faith, such as the hijab or kufi. Advocacy groups warn that this surge is not only an attack on individuals, but also on the fabric of multicultural Canada itself. Beyond physical threats, racial discrimination has also intensified. Communities identified as Arab or West Asian reported a 52% rise in cases of bias and exclusion, showing how racism and Islamophobia often intersect. These statistics illustrate that Islamophobia is not confined to extremist rhetoric online. It spills into the daily lives of ordinary Canadians, making even routine activities like going to work, attending school, or accessing public services a source of stress and vulnerability. Equally concerning is the evidence of systemic Islamophobia embedded within Canadian institutions. A report released in March 2025 revealed troubling patterns in the healthcare sector, where Muslim patients, including recent converts, reported feeling dismissed, misunderstood, or stereotyped by medical staff. Some said their health concerns were minimized because of assumptions about their background, while others felt that cultural and religious needs, such as dietary requirements or prayer accommodations, were consistently overlooked. For many, this reinforced a painful sense of being outsiders in a country that prides itself on inclusion. The psychological toll is also significant. Families in Toronto and Montreal have described instances of neighborhood intimidation, where something as simple as putting up Ramadan decorations in their windows led to hostile remarks or threatening gestures. Children in schools have reported bullying tied to stereotypes about Muslims, forcing parents to constantly advocate for their safety and dignity. These experiences, while deeply personal, are echoed across Canada, pointing to a systemic issue that cannot be ignored. The rise of Islamophobia in Canada challenges the nation's identity as a safe haven for diversity. For Muslim Canadians, whether immigrants, second-generation citizens, or newly converted, 2025 has become a test of resilience. They continue to balance pride in their faith with the fear of being targeted because of it. At the same time, community leaders stress that these challenges should not overshadow the contributions Muslims make to Canada in education, healthcare, business, and civic life. Instead, they argue, the fight against Islamophobia must be seen as part of Canada's broader struggle to live up to its founding values of justice, equality, and respect for all faiths. For many new converts to Islam in Canada, the journey into the faith is both inspiring and deeply challenging. On one side, they speak about experiencing a profound sense of spiritual peace and clarity after embracing Islam. The teachings of the Qur'an, the emphasis on purpose, and the connection to a global community often bring them a sense of belonging they had long been searching for. Yet, on the other side, converts face a difficult reality: the weight of social stigma and public prejudice. In 2025, with Islamophobia at record highs across Canada, many converts admit they feel hesitant to announce their conversion publicly. Some worry about how their families, colleagues, or friends will react. Others fear becoming targets of suspicion or hostility in a climate where Muslim identity is frequently misunderstood or misrepresented. This creates an emotional dilemma. While their hearts feel at peace with their new faith, their minds wrestle with the anxiety of social rejection. The challenges are not only external, but also deeply personal. Some converts have described moments of isolation, caught between two worlds, distanced from their old social circles, yet still learning how to fully integrate into their new Muslim communities. Adjusting to religious practices, such as daily prayers or dietary changes, can be overwhelming without guidance. For women, visible markers of identity, such as choosing to wear the hijab, often become both a source of empowerment and, unfortunately, a trigger for discrimination.
Despite these hardships, local Muslim communities across Canada have stepped up to provide support. Mosques and Islamic centers in cities like Toronto, Ottawa, and Calgary now run mentorship programs designed specifically for new Muslims. These initiatives pair converts with more experienced members of the community who can help them navigate both spiritual practices and the social challenges of their new identity. Many mosques also host Qur'an study circles, discussion groups, and community events that give converts a safe space to ask questions and build friendships. In addition, several organizations have launched support groups exclusively for new Muslims, where converts can share their experiences, struggles, and triumphs without fear of judgment. These spaces are vital in helping new Muslims build resilience, gain confidence, and strengthen their sense of belonging. For many converts, this network of care becomes a lifeline, offering both practical guidance and emotional comfort at a time when they need it most. The story of Canadian converts in 2025 is therefore one of both challenge and resilience. While Islamophobia creates barriers that make it harder for them to openly practice their new faith, the unwavering support of Muslim communities ensures that their journey is not a lonely one. By creating safe spaces, mentorship programs, and a culture of solidarity, Canada's Muslims are showing that faith is not only about personal belief, but also about building communities that uplift and protect one another. In response to the alarming rise of Islamophobia, the Canadian government has taken visible steps to address the issue, though the effectiveness of these measures remains a matter of debate in 2025. One of the most notable actions was the appointment of Amira El-Gawabi as Canada's first special representative on combating Islamophobia. Her role is to advise policymakers, engage with Muslim communities, and develop strategies to dismantle barriers of discrimination across the country. El-Gawabi's position represents a symbolic milestone, signaling that the federal government acknowledges Islamophobia as a serious and systemic challenge, not just a matter of isolated hate crimes. In addition, Ottawa published the Guide to Understanding and Combating Islamophobia, a federal resource designed to educate institutions, workplaces, and schools about the nature of anti-Muslim bias. The guide emphasizes that Islamophobia is systemic in nature, operating not only at the level of individual prejudice, but also within broader structures of society, from healthcare and education to employment and law enforcement. The government has stressed that meaningful solutions must therefore involve reforms at multiple levels, ensuring that public institutions are equipped to provide equitable treatment for all Canadians, regardless of faith. Yet despite these initiatives, Muslim activists and advocacy groups argue that government action has not gone far enough. They point to the persistence of daily Islamophobic incidents, ranging from harassment in public spaces to bias in hiring practices, as evidence that policies and reports have yet to translate into tangible protection on the ground. Critics note that while resources like the guide are valuable, they must be paired with enforceable policies, stronger hate crime legislation, and better accountability mechanisms to create real change. For many Muslims in Canada, Islamophobia remains a lived reality in 2025, shaping how they dress, where they travel, and even how openly they practice their faith. While the government's acknowledgement of systemic discrimination is an important step forward, the gap between policy and everyday experience highlights the urgent need for sustained action. Community leaders stress that combating Islamophobia cannot rest solely on symbolic gestures. It requires long-term investment in education, law enforcement training,
community engagement, and political will. Canada's identity as a multicultural nation is at stake. The government's response has laid the foundation, but the true measure of success will be whether Muslim Canadians can feel safe, respected, and fully included in the social fabric of the country. Until then, the fight against Islamophobia will remain one of the defining challenges for Canada in 2025. In 2025, the story of Islam in Canada cannot be told without acknowledging the latest and most pressing developments that shape the lives of Muslims across the country. Beyond population growth and inspiring conversion stories, Muslims in Canada are also navigating a turbulent climate marked by legal battles, systemic challenges, and increasing demands for political recognition. One of the most contentious debates revolves around Quebec's secularism law, known as Bill 21. This legislation, which bans public employees in positions of authority, such as teachers, police officers, and judges, from wearing religious symbols, has been criticized as discriminatory, particularly against Muslim women who wear the hijab. While Quebec's government defends the law as necessary to preserve secular values, human rights groups, feminists, and Muslim organizations argue that it undermines freedom of religion and gender equality. In early 2025, Canada's Supreme Court began reviewing the law, a decision that could have historic implications for the rights of Muslims and other faith groups across the country. At the same time, the federal government has introduced new initiatives aimed at countering hate crimes and protecting vulnerable communities. The Canada Community Security Program, CCSP, launched in 2025, provides financial support for mosques and Muslim community centers to strengthen security through cameras, alarms, and staff training. For example, the Islamic Society of North America in Mississauga received nearly $60,000 in federal funding to enhance protection for its facilities. While this program reflects an important acknowledgement of the risks faced by Muslims, activists argue that funding alone cannot erase the root causes of Islamophobia. They point to alarming statistics, such as a report that documented an 1,800% surge in Islamophobic hate crimes in the aftermath of the October 7, 2023 Gaza conflict, revealing the depth of hostility that Muslim communities continue to face. Further compounding the challenge, the Muslim Advisory Council of Canada released a detailed report in 2024 exposing systemic Islamophobia in healthcare. The findings included over 180 examples of anti-Muslim bias, ranging from casual discrimination to openly Islamophobic remarks by senior medical professionals. These incidents have left many Muslims, particularly women and converts, feeling alienated within spaces where they should expect safety and care. In addition to healthcare, cases of vandalism have targeted Muslim institutions, such as the Canadian Institute of Islamic Civilization in Montreal, where Islamophobic graffiti and property damage served as painful reminders that the hatred extends beyond online rhetoric into real-world intimidation. Muslim leaders and community representatives have responded by calling on the government to go further than symbolic appointments and policy guides. While the appointment of Amira El Gawabi as Canada's first special representative on combating Islamophobia was a groundbreaking step, many argue that more concrete measures are urgently needed. In April 2025, Muslim Canadians publicly demanded that political parties make firm commitments on fighting Islamophobia ahead of the federal election. Their demands include stronger legislation to criminalize hate speech, protections for religious freedoms, and investment in education programs that challenge stereotypes about Muslims and Palestinians. Another layer of complexity comes from the way Canadian media portrays Muslims and issues related to Palestine. Muslim advocacy groups have criticized certain media outlets for perpetuating bias, which they believe fuels public misunderstanding and, at times, hostility. In response, Muslim youth and community organizations are increasingly taking to social media and independent platforms to tell their own stories, highlight positive contributions, and push back against stigmatization. Taken together, these developments show that the future of Islam in Canada is not only about numbers or conversions. It is also about the ongoing struggle for equal rights, the fight against systemic discrimination, and the determination of Muslims to be fully recognized as part of Canada's multicultural identity. From the courtroom battles over Bill 21, to government funding programs for mosque security, to the grassroots advocacy demanding political accountability, the Muslim experience in 2025 reflects both resilience and resistance. It demonstrates that the growth of Islam in Canada is as much about spiritual conviction as it is about civic engagement, shaping a new chapter in the nation's evolving story of diversity and inclusion. Despite the serious challenges facing Muslims in Canada, the future of Islam in the country is marked by resilience, growth, and hope. The demographic trends show that Islam's presence is not only here to stay, but is steadily becoming a defining part of Canada's multicultural identity. Even in the face of rising Islamophobia, the momentum of the Muslim community continues to build, driven by both immigration and an increasing number of local Canadians who are embracing Islam as their faith. One of the most promising signs for the future is the emergence of a young, dynamic generation of Canadian Muslims. These young men and women are no longer content to remain on the margins of society. They are stepping into public life with confidence. From politics and policymaking to art, literature, music, and film, young Muslims are making their voices heard and shaping the national conversation. In academia and science, they are contributing research and innovation that place them at the heart of Canada's progress. Their visibility challenges stereotypes and shows that Muslim identity is not a barrier, but a strength in Canadian society. At the same time, new converts to Islam are giving Canadian Islam a fresh face. Their stories illustrate that Islam in Canada is not simply a product of immigration, but also a spiritual choice for Canadians themselves. Converts bring diverse perspectives and unique experiences that enrich Muslim communities, while also serving as bridges between Muslims and the wider Canadian population. Their journeys show that Islam resonates beyond cultural or ethnic lines, offering meaning and belonging to people from all walks of life. Looking ahead, the future of Islam in Canada will likely be defined by two parallel forces: resilience against prejudice and a deepening integration into the national fabric. While Islamophobia remains a challenge, the active participation of Muslims in civic life ensures that their voices will continue to grow stronger. Grassroots organizations, interfaith initiatives, and cultural platforms are already building spaces for dialogue and mutual respect, creating pathways for greater understanding between Muslims and the broader Canadian society. The hope for tomorrow lies in the idea that Islam in Canada will be increasingly recognized not as an outsider identity, but as an integral part of the nation's story. With every new generation, every public contribution, and every act of resilience, Muslims are showing that their faith is both a source of strength and a shared value within Canada's diverse landscape. The future may hold challenges, but it also holds the promise of a more inclusive, empathetic, and truly multicultural Canada, one in which Islam plays a central role. Islam in Canada is not just about numbers or demographic growth. It is about real human stories of courage, resilience, and unwavering faith. In 2025, the Muslim community in Canada has reached a pivotal moment. On one side, Muslims continue to face challenges from rising Islamophobia, with incidents of discrimination and hate crimes reminding us that prejudice still exists even within a nation celebrated for its diversity. Yet, on the other side, Islam is also inspiring countless Canadians from all walks of life to explore and ultimately embrace the faith. Each new convert adds not only to the statistics, but also to the narrative of how Islam is becoming a meaningful part of Canada's evolving multicultural identity. What stands out in 2025 is the resilience of Canadian Muslims in the face of adversity. From students and professionals to community leaders and activists, Muslims are not only defending their rights but also contributing significantly to Canadian society in fields such as education, medicine, politics, and technology. These contributions demonstrate that Islam in Canada is not an outsider force, but an integral part of the nation's present and future. At the same time, conversion to Islam continues to grow, particularly among young Canadians seeking spiritual fulfillment, justice, and clarity in a world filled with uncertainty. Many are drawn by the values of Islam, equality, compassion, and submission to God, while others find peace in its discipline and holistic approach to life. Their stories reflect a broader truth, that Islam is not merely surviving in Canada, but steadily thriving, even amidst challenges. The question for Canada in 2025 is no longer whether Islam will continue to expand. That has already become a reality. The true question is how Canada, with its proud tradition of multiculturalism, will embrace this growing faith as part of its national identity. Will it nurture an environment of inclusion, where diversity is celebrated and respected? Or will it allow divisions to grow, fueled by fear and misunderstanding? The answer lies not only in policy, but in the everyday interactions between Canadians of all backgrounds. As we close, one thing is clear. Islam in Canada is more than a religion practiced by millions. It is a living story of faith, struggle, and hope. It is about building bridges of understanding, inspiring compassion, and shaping a future where every Canadian, regardless of faith, can feel at home. In 2025 and beyond, Islam will remain a vital part of Canada's social fabric, continuing to challenge, inspire, and transform the way the nation understands itself. Thanks for watching until the end. I hope it was useful. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.